All right, welcome to part 2 of keeping records as a freelance translator or interpreter. Just as a recap, we're talking about why we're keeping records. It'll make taxes easy. It'll help us evaluate our rates. Are they profitable for us? It'll help us evaluate how we're getting work, our marketing strategies. It'll provide us metrics of experience, basically being able to tell future collaborators where we have experience and how much, and the all-important have I been paid. It'll let us keep track of who we've told to pay us and whether or not they have paid us. And so we're going to look at how I keep records as a freelance translator interpreter. So this is record keeping according to Devin Gilbert. So I'm sure you will have plenty of adjustments. You won't do it the exact way I do it. But essentially, normal meta information like dates, a project name. It might be one of those really hairy IDs that translation companies will give you when you accept a project. Or it might be something more descriptive if it's for a client that doesn't use crazy IDs. It's whatever you want it to be. Language pair, I usually put something here like Spanish to English or Portuguese to English. Again, the reason I'm keeping track of that, even if you only have one language pair, maybe you have different directionalities going into Portuguese sometimes, other times going into English from Portuguese. It's good to keep track of and eventually be able to generate statistics on how much of your work is either direction. Domain, this is what we were talking about when we were looking at companies like to know which domains you have experience in. For example, me, I have a lot of experience in aerospace. And it doesn't matter how you write the domain in here as long as it's consistent across every project you'll ever have. So for engineering, I might write that, and if it's aerospace, I might write that or that. The point is that if down the road I have another project in the same subdomain, I don't want to change it up and write aerospace because I want to be able to automatically generate statistics. And so I'll use the same subdomain. Source country, I like to keep track of this. Let's say Brazil, because a lot of employers will want that metric of experience. Do you have experience translating Brazilian Portuguese? I'll say, yes, I've done this many words in Brazilian Portuguese and this many in Portuguese from Portugal. Job source, this is for marketing purposes. If you got the job through ProZ, write it like that. If you got it because of your personal website, someone reached out to you after seeing your personal website, we'll do it that way. Maybe it was LinkedIn. It's just good to keep track of your marketing schemes. Here, I put a code in here. Sometimes I bill by the hour or the word, and sometimes by the job. So it's J for job, W for word, and H for hour. I personally prefer getting paid by the hour or the job so that you can negotiate things favorably and not have so much uncertainty. So if it's by the hour, then we put our rate in right here. Let's say it's $30 per hour. Heaven forbid. Hopefully it's more like $40 per hour or more. And then, we'll put in how many words it was, how long it took us. And because we've got our rate in there and how much time it took us, how many words it was, we get to know, how much we should be paid for this job, how much we were making per word, per hour. That works out to an okay rate per hour, per word. And then we can say which company we were doing the job for and keep track of how much money we're making with certain companies. So we can decide maybe who to focus on. We can see who's paying us the best rates. Generate statistics on all that stuff over the long run. And here, this is have I been paid. First of all, you got to tell them to pay you. And I'll put in here, keep track of my invoice numbers so it makes it really easy to find stuff. I'll put notes in here like PM was awesome to work with. And here I call this Nether Money. This is money you have asked someone to give you and they have not given it to you yet. And if we put yes and paid, no more Nether Money. We want to get rid of Nether Money. We want money in the bank, not in the Nether. So that's kind of the general scheme. That's all of the data I keep for every entry being one project. And if you have large projects that go over the course of, several months or a year or more, you might want to break those projects up into separate entries. Maybe by billing period or something. And I have a separate sheet down here for translation review. It's the exact same as the previous sheet, the only difference being, sometimes I write here estimated. I think on my personal records it says estimated words, because with translation review, sometimes you have to ballpark it. And you would enter in all the same information here, making sure to have all this meta information. And it'll generate the same sort of statistics. We'll say, yes, we got paid. I'm not going to fill in all of the information here just so we can move right along. Show you what it looks like for interpreting as well. Everything is the same, the way I keep records for interpreting, except I have hours on paper and actual hours. Hours on paper is how many hours I bill them for. You can be on an interpreting assignment for 3 hours, but bill for a half day for 4, for example. Or you can be there for 1.5 hours, 30 minutes, but round up when you bill. That's the policy at a lot of places, and you can make it your policy as a contractor. So maybe I worked 2.5 hours, and then actual hours is actually how many hours I was there. So sorry, I should change this. Maybe I worked 2.5, but it was actually, I'm billing for 3 hours. I'm messing up my terminology here. So I actually worked 2.5 hours, but I'm billing for 3. But then maybe when I add in drive time, it ends up being 3 hours or 3.5. I include the time driving in my actual hours. And, we're probably billing by the hour. Really, I shouldn't have by word here. It would be by hour or by minute in the case of remote interpreting sometimes. But let's say by hour. And let's say I'm billing that much, heaven forbid, should be higher. Okay, and then I can see actually how much I made per hour. And then on average, this is a running total basically. I can see how much money I made, but then we also, at least I keep track of when I get paid for miles. Everyone I've worked with so far pays for the miles you drive, so it works out really well, I think. And I keep it separate. I have total money for the job, but then total money less mileage compensation, because the mileage compensation I don't include in my taxes because I don't write off my vehicle. If they're paying me for miles, then it just doesn't end up being worth it for me personally to include my vehicle as an expense. I would rather just say, okay, I've already been compensated for that expense because they're paying for miles, and I'll just leave this money off my taxes. And say yes, I invoiced it. Yes, I got paid. We'll put the company in here. Invoice numbers, as always. And try to keep that Nether to a minimum.